pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to begin by calling Lisa Cherry, the president of the Georgia Recreation and Parks Authority Agency, to come forward. You got an extra pen?
Thank you, Mayor Wood and members of council. It's an honor and privilege to be here this evening, and I appreciate this opportunity to recognize my colleagues, my friends in the city of Roswell. Would like to, I don't know if you would like to come down before I say a few words, or if you'd like to wait until afterwards.
We'll wait to see what you have to say.
Okay, before we come down. Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, we'd like to obviously recognize the City of Roswell Recreation, Parks, Historic, and Cultural Affairs Department for being the finalist for the 2013 National Gold Medal Award. The agency was one of 4 agencies across the country to be named a finalist for this award, and this is the 3rd time in the past 3 years that the department has been named this. It's a tremendous honor. The City of Roswell Recreation and Parks Department has been a leader in the state of Georgia for many years, and obviously are now nationally recognized as well for their contributions to the field of recreation, excellence in the field, program planning, resource management, stewardship, all those things that you want in a Recreation and Parks Department. And I believe a lot of it is attributable to the support that they receive from you guys as the council members, their Recreation Commission, the citizens, and it's just an honor and a privilege to be here tonight to recognize your department. I am with Alpharetta Recreation and Parks Department, so I have to say that years ago, I knew more about Roswell Recreation and Parks Department than I did about Alpharetta, but please don't tell my employers. So, but seriously, Roswell is recognized throughout the state, throughout the Southeast, and throughout the nation as a leader in recreation and parks, and you have so much to be proud for and proud of with your community. I would like to recognize Joe Glover as the director of y'all's department. He is a respected professional in this business, not only in Georgia but around the country. He is a true leader, and I am thankful to call him friend and colleague. So
let's have a hand for Joe Glover and the Roswell Rec Department. Joe, let's all stand up for Joe. Come on. Great job, Joe.
And if you aren't familiar with the Gold Medal Award, which you probably are, being that this is your 3rd time at the plate, it's administered by the American Academy for Parks and Recreation Administration in cooperation with the National Recreation and Park Association. And it recognizes communities that demonstrate excellence in parks, recreation, maintenance, planning, stewardship, volunteerism, professional development, program planning, and the like. So this is certainly something that the state of Georgia and your colleagues, Joe and staff and mayor, are very proud of you for bringing this distinction back to Georgia 3 times in a row. And finalist is something extremely proud, something to be proud of. And I'm proud to know you guys and to be here tonight to celebrate this with you.
Joe, did you want to bring the Rec Commission and Rec Department up? And I'm going to call upon Councilman Orleans to say something nice.
I would just like to, Roswell has been known for a long, long time for their Recreation and Parks Department. And it's about time that the feds, the government, I'm sorry, not the government, but the citizens across the United States have come to that realization of Roswell being one of the best of 4 in the country. And that's due to our staff, Joe and Jeff and Morgan and all the other staff that aren't here tonight, and then the commission. And I'll just add on it that we've got a great commission right now, and I expect even better and bigger things out of our Parks and Rec Department, and a winner next year.
And with that, I'm sure my council would like to join you all for a photograph, and I'd like all the Rec Department to come forward for this photograph.
Go ahead. Oh, sorry.
We get 2 rows, maybe? This is. There you go.
I can see everybody.
Yeah, look, yeah. Make sure your face sees my face. That way the camera sees your face. One more here.
One more in for Great Department.
You can have my seat.
I'd like to call upon Jerry Orleans again for recognition.
Oh, yes, recognition of Jeff Pruitt. And I guess I'll leave this all to Joe to present here. Is Jeff here tonight? Oh, yes, he is, isn't he?
He had to practice the Pledge of Allegiance before he came up, but he did make it. Thank you, Mr. Orleans. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to recognize Jeff Pruitt, the Administrator of our Park Services, for receiving the Roy Hammond Award, Leadership Award. This award is given to an outstanding professional in our 7th District for the leadership abilities. Jeff served 8 years as Executive Officer, with 2 of those years as District Commissioner. Jeff has not only been a leader in our state association, but also with the Roswell Recreation and Parks Department for over 20 years, serving over 20 years. In his key role for the department, it's instrumental in placing Roswell in the national spotlight through the accreditation and gold medal program. This is the highest award given by the Georgia Recreation and Park Association 7th District. So please join me in congratulating Jeff Pruitt. Jeff received a very nice clock for his office. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, the council would also like to get their picture taken with the famous Jeff Pruitt. Council?
Up there too, so.
Jeff Pruitt.
That's reassuring. I don't know. That's
And while we're recognizing all the great things that the Roswell Rec Department does, we'd like to recognize the Roswell Adult Swim Team for winning the Atlanta Adult Swim Team Championship. So if y'all would come forward. Russ Thomas is going to present this. Russ Thomas, you're up.
Excellent. Mayor and Council, we appreciate you guys having us here to recognize our repeat championship. Actually, this is our second year winning it in a row.
Well, congratulations.
And thank you very much. We appreciate y'all's support of Rec and Parks and our swim programs, and also for the Rec and Parks folks. We couldn't do this without them letting us start it and doing it. This is only our 4th year, so we're looking for bigger and better things and continuing our winning tradition here. I'm going to turn it over to Matt Murphy, who is our league director.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, thanks for having us out again this year. The league trophy this year, obviously, they won it from winning the championship meet, but it represents so much more from the Parks and Recreation Department here. It's the hard work and dedication of so many to keep these programs alive, and over the few years they have the team, like I said, back-to-back championships. It's a pretty good accomplishment, but it definitely wouldn't have come without the leadership of the Parks Department and Russ Thomas and everybody else on the team. So without further ado, going to present them this year's trophy.
Hatcher, I think my council has one more photo op in them. Come on, council. You want to be seen with champions.
We also get a championship towel. This is what they really should. Okay.
You're tall. You get back there. And while we're on a roll, let's have a presentation of the Rec Department annual review. Councilman Orleans.
You want to do your appointment?
We'll come back to that. Well, I want to just keep on this rec roll.
Next item is presentation of the Rec Parks Historic and Cultural Affairs Department Annual Report, which will be presented by the Commission Chairman, Deborah Ewing.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Deborah Ewing. I'm Chair of the Rec Commission, and I'd like to just talk about some highlights in the annual report that ended June 30th, and also to bring you up on some current activities. But first I want to introduce two commission members that are here, Steve Stroud and Rick Dreger. We do have just a tremendous commission this year. It's exciting, new ideas, and I think, Jerry, you're right. There's going to be some really great things coming out of this commission. So, a tremendous year, of course. 7 new synthetic turf fields that will allow safer play because of a more consistent surface and more playing time, which is going to add tournament times. I see people I run through the park and I see people on those fields all the time, in the evenings, early Sunday mornings, all the time, and they're beautiful. So we should be wrapping those up by the end of the year. East Roswell Park, we're working at starting those now, so fun times. We opened a new art center at the East Roswell Park. It's with a partnership with the Fine Arts Alliance. Great partnership with them. The center is absolutely beautiful. They're going to start cooking classes there too, so beautiful kitchen, and that's exciting. We are currently in the process of preparing a master plan for the parks along the Chattahoochee River for better river access, and also to ensure Roswell is a premier riverfront city. We really need to use that river, and we're going to partner with ARC, and I think they'll be a good partner with us. I think will allow us to do as much as we can on that property. They know we want to protect the river too. So We opened a new state-of-the-art fitness center at the Adult Rec Center, and it is tremendous. My husband had knee replacement, and it's made a big difference in his recovery, which is also nice for me. And I've joined, so great price for Roswell residents. It's the best deal around. I don't want to advertise too much because I don't want it to be too busy, but another example of providing services for wellness to our seniors and to everybody, to residents in Roswell, for a good price. So that's important. We went through a recertification process this year by the Commission for Accreditation of Park and Recreation Activities, and it is laborious. It's a big deal. Only 137 agencies nationally have qualified for this distinction, and they have to comply with 144 mandated standards, and I don't think they can miss too many. So the department believes in it. I think eventually the gold medal winner will have to be accredited, which it should be. They should be at that standard. Again, we are one of the top 4 agencies in the nation for our population, for our city population. It's a tremendous honor. You know, those awards are really, really nice to have. It's really nice to get a pat on the back, but we all know that we're the best of the best, and you know, we'll go for it again next year. Our partnerships continue to grow. We have 17 booster organizations. They help provide the support and funding for many of our programs. We could not have the quality of programs we have without the boosters. Our business partners are increasing. They recognize what we are trying to do, and they support us in our goal to improve the quality of life for residents in Roswell. Not only are we the best, but we're a department with a heart. We've expanded our programs and services for citizens with special needs. In addition to our young adult programs, our support for Special Olympics, we've added adaptive soccer, baseball, and basketball. These kids receive uniforms. They learn a sport as a team, and hopefully we're going to be working with other North Fulton cities to establish a league, so it's very exciting. We've also formed 2 advisory groups. This is new. One for parents with children with disabilities, with special needs. We need to understand their needs, and the department is always looking and reaching out to the community to serve everyone's needs. The second is high school students advisory council, and we have representatives from 5 high schools: Centennial, Roswell, Blessed Trinity, Fellowship, and Cottage School. And the department contacted the principals and asked for a recommendation. So they're going to be working with us to really talk about programs that young adults might be interested in, because we have a drop-off at a certain age of kids that think, oh, rec programs are just, you know, for young kids. We want to keep those kids active. I'd like to read just a few personal testimonials. We've been going out in preparation for our getting the gold medal next year. We've been asking the community what they think about parks and what they mean to them. First one is from Kathy Lenore. She's a Roswell resident. I believe the Recreation Parks and Historic and Cultural Affairs Department has contributed significantly to the atmosphere here in Roswell, drawing creative people and providing healthy, natural spaces for everyone to enjoy. And even though everyone complains about taxes, the Roswell city tax is one from which I enjoy tremendous benefit. Don't hear that much, do you? Don Yates, Roswell resident. The city of Roswell is a wonderful community to live and raise a family. It has many amenities, and one of the most obvious is the Roswell Parks and Recreation Department. However, it is not only the beautiful parks, well-used swimming pool, functional athletic fields, comprehensive programs, and modern activity buildings that make Roswell a most livable city, but also the first-class employees of the department. It is particularly important to maintain park facilities and to make sure future generations enjoy a quality of life unsurpassed in Georgia. And one more, George Lang. Since my heart surgery, I've been using the fitness center on Grimes Bridge. For me, the Adult Rec Center is the crown jewel of all the many facilities that the Roswell Parks and Recreation Department has to offer. So it's nice to get feedback from the community, and we're going to continue to do that. We want to tell our story, and we want the community to help us tell that story. The Rec Commission is going to initiate a new program, new activity each spring. It's going to be a competition between the Rec Commission and the City Council. We would like to invite the City Council to participate in a bocce ball game when the weather gets a little nicer. I thought about the hula hoop contest, maybe a hula hoop contest, but the mayor would be a ringer, and so we've decided bocce ball is what we want to do. By the way, the Rec Commission will pick all activities for this competition. Thank you for what you do. It does take a village. It takes the city. It takes our many volunteers. It takes our tremendous staff and our great commission to make the department that we have. Thank you.
One more hand for the Rec Commission. Now we're to the voting part of the meeting for those folks who need to go swimming practice. You don't need to stick around any longer. Thank you for coming. The first I have is, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilmember Wynn to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Orlins. Does anyone in the audience have any questions regarding the consent agenda? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. On my agenda, I have a nomination of Adam Braun to the Roswell Arts Commission. Do I have a motion to approve the nomination?
Move for approval.
Motion by Councilmember
Adam
Orlins.
Braun
Is there
to
a
the
second?
Roswell Arts Commission appointment.
Second by Councilmember Wynn. All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. For the record, Councilmember DiPolito is absent with an excuse tonight.
Does the new appointee want to make a 20-minute speech or so?
No. No speeches. And we're back to Councilmember Orlins' agenda.
I just want to thank Commission and Deborah for that presentation. A lot of things have been happening over the last year, and a lot more things will be happening next year. So we appreciate what you guys all do for us. Next item is approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a contract with the Cultural Planning Group for consultant services for the Community Cultural and Arts Assessment and Plan in the amount of $80,000. And this item will be presented by Morgan Timmis.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. The Purchasing Division issued an RFP for the selection of a consultant to conduct the community cultural plan, and an evaluation committee was formed which reviewed all the proposals received, and recommendation of the evaluation committee was to select the cultural planning group. Additionally, the Roswell Arts Commission discussed this item at its November 5th meeting, and it also voted to recommend the cultural planning group. So that's where we are.
Are there any questions for staff? So what do we hope to come from this plan?
This plan is going to accomplish many things, Mayor. It's going to take a survey, if you will, of all of the existing programs and arts-related facilities that we have currently in the city to provide a benchmark, and then it will engage the entire city community, citizens rather, to get input on what they would like to see develop in terms of arts and cultural activities and facilities in the city going forward, out 15 years. And then there will be a plan of recommendations for how to fulfill those requests and desires of the community. And it will be a very specific action plan with tasks and timelines and budgets associated with them.
Do we have a motion for approval?
I move for approval of signing the contract.
Motion to approve by Councilman Orlins. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Diamond. Any further discussion? Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That is Councilman Orlins, Councilman Eichelhart, Councilmember Wynn, Councilmember Diamond. All opposed? Councilmember Price. Passes 4-1.
Thank you.
I need my city administrator to call the admin finance department calendar. Mike Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll call this agenda and then present it to you, I guess. So this is the approval of an ordinance to amend the city charter. It's related to the municipal court services. This is the second reading of this amendment to amend the charter to take out some specific wording out of the charter for the municipal court. We're going to be deleting section 7.100, which is defined as court services. The section 7.11, which is the clerk of court, 7.12, the solicitor and deputy solicitors, 7.13 for the marshals, and 7.14 is other personnel. We're going to be taking these, looking to take these out of the charter and replacing them with the section 7.100, which just says court personnel. And it will read as follows: the city shall be authorized to provide for such court personnel as deemed appropriate for the effective operation of the municipal court of the city and of the timely administration of justice. This is the second reading, which takes specific positions out of the city charter and puts it back into operations so that we could hire and be more flexible with the positions that we have in court services.
Mr. Davis, if you'd read the ordinance for the second time.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend the charter of the City of Roswell pursuant to OCGA 36353 so as to provide for the court personnel for the effective operation of the Municipal Court of Roswell and the timely administration of justice, to provide for authority, to provide for other matters relative thereto, to repeal conflicting laws and ordinances, and for other purposes. Now therefore be it ordained by the Mayor and Council for the City of Roswell, and is hereby ordained and established by said authority, that the Mayor and Council hereby adopt the following ordinance, text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this will be the second reading.
Do we have a motion for approval?
Move for approval of the second reading.
Motion by Councilmember Orleans for approval. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Nguyen. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? Councilmember Price.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the brevity of this new ordinance, which I guess it's always nice to be brief, but this replaces 2 pages of an ordinance basically down to 1 sentence. And I'm just concerned that there are a lot of things in our current code that we may possibly miss, because 1 sentence by definition will have broad latitude, and I'm just not sure where it may take us. One specific question I had was, in the prior ordinance, we had a clerk of court, and the records as maintained by that person resided in the city of Roswell. And if we have other entities providing a service, who will own the records that they keep?
The City of Roswell will own those records. The chief clerk would be the one that would be responsible for those records. As it stands right now, I am, the deputy city administrator has been named as the court administrator. In most jurisdictions, the court administrator and the chief clerk are the same. If we move forward as we're doing right now, I can also be the chief clerk, which would be responsible for those records. Or if we bring in somebody else to do that, they could be also. This just gives us the flexibility of having whoever's up there in court services, who the best person would be to be in charge of those records. The records would still be maintained in the city, and they would be city files. I mean, those are city court files.
Another question I had, thank you for that one, was in the current code, there's a provision where this clerk could be assigned duties and responsibilities by the judge, solicitor, and yourself. So does that need to be specified, i.e., would any other people not feel that they were responsible to the judge and solicitor, but only to the administrator?
No, ma'am. Actually, what this will do, it takes that responsibility out of the charter. It still is in our operations. We have policies within court services and within the city on who is responsible to what through an org chart, through the different responsibilities of the different positions. This just removes it out of the charter. If those positions are no longer present, then the charter would not be accurate because there would be different people reporting to different people. So all this is doing is removing it from the charter. Our organization structure and our operations from day to day will still stand.
And
Is it fair to say that the council still retains authority over the policy and the positions
Oh,
in
yes,
the
sir.
office?
Yes, sir.
So it's not in the charter, but it's still within the judgment of this council whether there's a position of a clerk and what the responsibilities of that clerk are and what the salary is.
Mayor and council is still over the position control that we have in the city, yes.
Other questions?
yeah, again, it does not specify the position or definition of the position of solicitor, and that concerns me since in the current ordinance, we may at any time appoint someone in the absence of a solicitor, which technically we have right now in that the solicitor's not currently doing her duties. I don't say doing her duties, not actively working. So at some point, I wonder whether we need to be stepping in to make that appointment, or if we would never do that in the future under this new ordinance.
The solicitor's duties right now, we still do have a full-time solicitor, albeit on admin leave. During that time, we have filled in with a standby solicitor that is doing the work. If there was a vacancy to which we couldn't find anybody to come in, then certainly the mayor and council can appoint a solicitor, appoint a solicitor pro tem to come in during that time. This doesn't call for those measures. We just need somebody to fill in during a temporary absence for the particular solicitor. As far as how that work in the future, I would probably defer that to our attorney, but operationally, you have the ability to hire and fire the personnel within the city.
I don't know that we do. We've granted that authority to the
You have
city
granted that to
administrator.
the city administrator, but ultimately it's your authority.
Right, but under this new ordinance, then, have we given all of that to the city administrator, or do we retain any independent authority to affect the personnel in the court services?
The council has delegated the authority to the city administrator, but that delegation to hire and fire. But this council has the authority to remove that delegation, to take it back to make it a council decision. So you're correct. If under our general rule, the city administrator would hire and fire the solicitor. But that's not a charter. That's simply a resolution of this council. Is that correct, Mr. Davidson?
The mayor and council have delegated to the city administrator the ability to hire and fire department heads. The solicitor is appointed by mayor and council. Krista has been appointed at this time. She is able to work. She's been asked not to at this
No,
time.
I'm talking about in the future, ongoing.
In the future, it is still up to the mayor and council how they want to proceed with that. You can adopt an ordinance. You can do whatever you want on who appoints the solicitor.
So right now, with this change, the authority for appointment of solicitor would remain with council. It has not been delegated.
It has not been delegated.
Thank you for that
But it's not been defined. It's now undefined, whereas before it was defined.
Currently, she is serving a term, and we can go in and change that by ordinance. It doesn't need to be in the charter. So, I mean, if you want the ability to hire and fire the solicitor, we can create an ordinance with 2 readings.
Thank you.
Any other questions council members may have? Yes, Nancy.
So if we have 4 or 5 different positions under the previous charter, and now we decide we need 3 positions, we're not bound by charter to hire those 4 or 5 people. We can do it however it works for our workload and our workflow.
And the type of positions, that's really the intent of this, is the flexibility to allow operations to come back to the day-to-day. depending on what positions we need, how many we need, who we need to do those, instead of it being in the charter, which limits our ability. Just take that out of the charter and let that be in operations from a day-to-day standpoint, and we can make that decision.
Thank you.
Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council before we take a vote? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That is unanimous.
Thank you.
This time we'll call upon, well, where are we? Michael, still sanitation and hardship exemption policy. Finance? Well, you're presenting it.
That's right, I'm presenting it.
And
This is item number 8 for finance. Mr. Keith Lee, we're presenting an approval of a resolution for an amendment to the sanitation hardship exemption policy.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, Mayor and Council. What I have before you tonight is a resolution regarding hardship exemptions. The resolution provides for a 1-year exemption, provided that after a 6-month period, an affidavit is filed stating that the original conditions continue to exist. The determination to accept or award the hardship exemption is made by the Hardship Committee. Hardship Committee is comprised of the City Administrator, Director of Environmental Public Works, and the Director of Finance. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
so how are we changing this policy?
This policy extends it from 6 months to 1 year.
And can you give us the logic behind the extension from 6 months to 1 year?
We've had some requests to look at prior, well, it also extends it to looking at prior penalties and interest and fees as well. In the past, we've had applicants to ask for those things, and we've looked at going backwards and forwards as to the applicant's request. We've had one request over the past year.
So give me an example of what we think we would exempt.
So we have an exemption for penalties, which we charge $20 if someone's late, or interest of 1.5% for each month compounded.
So we can waive that. So so those are interest and penalties. Do we waive fees?
We waive fees. Currently at sanitation, this would include water and stormwater.
And under what circumstances would you all normally waive a fee for a year?
Should someone have some medical condition or have proof that they're unable to make payment, they are on a fixed income, they've had some conditions to exist or to come forward that makes it improbable for them to make payments on their utilities.
Have you all developed a set of policies internally for what you think would be appropriate?
What we've asked is I did include the policy that we would go the application. They will file a written application that provides us their personal or financial status, and we will make a determination based on that. One other reason that we've asked to go to 1 year is that if they're on a fixed income, the federal government typically only puts out their statements once a year, as many people have direct deposits. So looking to ask someone what they make on a monthly basis, and proof of that is usually only available maybe once a year.
What happens if they come back the second year and say, I still am broke?
They can make an application for a second time.
So how long could you continue to be exempt from stormwater and sanitation fees?
We did not limit it. It's 1 year for each application max, but they can continue to make application year after year.
Do we have anybody who has gone multiple years?
No, not to my knowledge. We've had one person to ask twice with a period of time between the two.
I guess I have a little concern if it goes more than a year.
Okay.
I can't speak for the rest of the council, but these are costs to the taxpayer in general. And I understand a tough year, but if it's year after year after year, I think it should be a council decision.
Okay.
I don't know how the rest of the council feels about this, so I would have reservations about saying you could keep rolling it over, because it doesn't become a year exemption, it becomes a multiple year exemption.
Yes, sir.
The other council questions council may have. Councilmember Orleans.
Keith, in the
Yes, sir.
Keith, in the past, it's been for sanitation only, and now we're adding water and stormwater as something that can be waived. But don't those go to Fulton County, and how can we waive their charges?
We do have stormwater fees, and part of our area, part of the service area that we have for water would be generally this area. So we do have water customers
So
that come
we're
to
only
us.
doing it, the water in the city water
Yes, correct.
district. It doesn't say that in here.
Yeah, then we could clarify that.
And the stormwater, so you're just talking about the stormwater fees, you're not talking about the Fulton County fees that go with the sewer on top of the
No, sir,
water.
I'm not talking about sewer fees.
So we can waive somebody's water bill on the Roswell water system, but they're still going to have to pay whatever sewer bill is owed to Fulton County.
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, you need to, I think we need to specify that, because it's saying just water, which means all the Fulton County charges, so that needs to be clarified. Thank you.
Councilmember Price.
Has this ever been a problem when someone goes to sell their property, i.e., do they have a number of liens related to fees, penalty, interest? Is this something that would apply here, that someone would apply for this when they were getting ready to sell a house or something?
Oh, I don't know of any specific issues related to a problem, but we do lien properties for sanitation fees. I don't believe they would be able to ask for sufficient exemption to remove a lien. And a lien can't be removed by the committee. It'll have to be removed through the appropriate course of action, either payment or selling of the home.
Because it says, the hardship review committee may also waive or reduce any outstanding fees, penalties, and interest. But you're saying that does not include a lien, but what would be the difference?
If a lien is placed, I can't remove that lien unless payment is made. Would that be correct? Even
But if it's waived, then the balance is zero, right?
I think in that particular instance, we would be beyond, if a lien is placed, we would be beyond the exemption they could request. There would be more fees that would be in place or past due that they would not be able to ask for sufficient exemption to remove all of the fees.
Got you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion? Yes, question, Councilman Lawrence.
Well, I guess I would want to see the resolution rewritten before we would vote on it, clarifying some of the points.
So you're suggesting a deferral?
Suggesting a deferral for that.
Is that a motion?
Make it accurate, yes, I'll make a motion to defer.
Motion for deferral by Councilmember Orleans. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second on the motion for deferral. Does anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this subject? Let's take a motion on deferral. All in favor of the motion to defer, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
This time we'll call upon Councilman Eigelhart, Environmental Public Works Liaison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our only item is the approval of funding assistance for the Gillums Lake Homeowner Association under the Lakes and Ponds Partnership Program, and a budget amendment of $50,000, and Mr. Mooring will present that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The Gillums Lake Homeowners Association about a year ago had applied for coverage under the Lakes and Ponds program, and they were approved at the level of $100,000. Subsequently, they've done further engineering and analysis and determined that the cost is going to be considerably greater, and they have requested an additional amount of funding of $50,000. We have reviewed this at some length with the engineers and made a determination that the majority of the
settlement comes from Roswell citizens, Roswell properties, and as a consequence have proposed that the request be granted to allow up to an additional $50,000. The actual amount will be based on the actual expenses that they submit following completion of the project. The funding was proposed to come from the Soil Erosion Fund, and so was approved. This action was approved by the committee, Public Works, Public Safety Committee, to advance to the Mayor and Council, subject to approval of the funding by the Soil Erosion Fund Committee, and that the Soil Erosion Fund Committee approved it this afternoon, and so the funding is in place, and we recommend this for your approval.
Yes, thank you. Do the homeowners contribute something to this project?
Yes, ma'am. The homeowners pay 50% and the city pays 50%.
So it's 50-50?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and any other governmental entity contributing?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
Move for approval for the funding assistance and the budget amendment in the amount of $50,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Eichelhardt, second by Councilmember Orlins to approve the budget amendment. Anybody on the audience wish to be heard on this? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise your hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll call on liaison of the Public Safety Department.
Thank you.
Councilmember Becky Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is going to be an approval of a resolution to accept a Target grant to support Roswell's Heroes and Helpers in the amount of $3,500. Chief Grant.
We applied and received a grant from Target for $3,500, which will allow us to help 32 children in need. On December 14th, police officers will take these children through the Target store, and with the assistance of Target and their gift cards, allow the children to buy gifts for themselves and their friends and their family. Also, we will have assistance to have the gifts wrapped, provide breakfast for the kids, and also provide them cookies.
Do we have a motion?
Real quick, and there's no cost to the city. This is all just a grant, no city match.
There is no match. This is all through the Target grant, as well as donations made to the Police and Fire Foundation for this specific purpose.
I think this is absolutely fantastic idea. Move to approve to accept the Target grant in the amount of $3,500.
Motion by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by the right side, I think includes all in favor of the motion, raise your hands.
Thank you.
This time we'll call on liaison of transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next item is the approval for the mayor or city administrator to sign a contract with Woodwind Construction Company, Inc. in the amount of $89,030 for the completion of the Midtown Gap sidewalk construction project, and to sign a surety tender agreement with the American Contractors Indemnity Company. Mr. Asenbrack will give us the details.
Thank you, Councilmember Price. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, several years ago the city embarked on a streetscape project on State Route 9, and we called it the Midtown Streetscape Project, and it went from Norcross on State Route 9 up to Holcomb Bridge Road, except for one parcel, and that was a car wash. And we have affectionately called this project the Midtown Gap because it created a gap in the sidewalks in our streetscape. We hired a contractor to perform this work, Early Construction, and Early Construction failed to perform the work and was terminated for default. We talked to the bonding company. The bonding company has been very cooperative. The bonding company is in California, so there's been some logistical issues, but they have been very cooperative and very responsive. They have taken on the assignment. They have studied the situation. They held a on-site bid proposal where numerous contractors showed up on site to look at the situation and to bid on the remaining work. Several bids were received, and they determined that a company called Woodwind Construction was the lowest responsible bidder. And I was told tonight that Joe Glover told me that Woodwind Construction is the same people that built the covered bridge. So they are highly recommended and do a good job. So the bid amount for Woodwind Construction is $89,030, which is higher than the amount that Early originally bid on partially because part of the work is in place and partly because the some differences in the various bid amount, the schedule of values or the unit costs. So the difference is $27,017.60. The bonding company has agreed to pay that money to the City of Roswell, and so we are recommending two elements of this action tonight. One is we recommend that Woodwind Construction we enter into an agreement with Woodwind Construction per the bonding company to complete the work on the Midtown Gap and finish the construction, and secondly to create a grant fund to accept the $27,000 difference.
Move that we sign the contract with Woodwind Construction Company in the amount of $89,030,000 and with a notice to proceed to Woodwind ASAP. So we can have a wonderful Christmas present for the citizens of Roswell to get that eyesore finished.
Motion by Councilmember.
That wasn't all part of the motion.
Motion by Councilmember Price. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
We have a recommendation for closure. Discuss litigation and real estate. Do we have a motion for closure? Motion by Councilmember Price. All in favor, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. If I get a unanimous vote, why do I need a second? State law requires a second? Even if you get a